Hello everyone and welcome back to another video on the channel. Today I'm going to be doing a bit of a look at the 2017 NBA draft. I'm going to look back at some disappointments. I'm going to do a bit of a redraft of the lottery, some guys that have succeeded that were selected a bit later in the draft. With that being said, if you guys do enjoy this type of content and enjoy the video, feel free to leave a like down below and subscribe to the channel if you are new. Let me know your thoughts down below on what you would have changed in a redraft, or some players that you think have been missed. With that being said, let's get right into it, and I'm going to start with a few disappointments. And by disappointments, I don't necessarily mean Markelle Fultz being worse than expected. I mean more so players that have been drafted high enough and really haven't amounted to quality NBA players. Because don't get me wrong, Markelle Fultz, as we know, obviously hasn't been as good as you would hope out of a first overall pick. But pre his injury this season, he looked like a quality NBA starting point guard. Not elite by any stretch, but a quality NBA starting point guard. And we're looking for the ones that aren't. And so starting off, we have to talk Josh Jackson. We just have to. And this is someone that I really liked coming out of college. I thought he had really good athleticism, a really good defensive game. And it just hasn't translated. His defense has still been good in the league, but his offense has just been atrocious. He's currently shooting 40% from the field this season while shooting 28% from deep. And he doesn't offer enough on the offensive end to garner any heavy minutes. He could see himself around the league as a role player for some defense and a very limited offensive role. And maybe see that be his role as he ages, or he might continue to be an offensive guy that shoots way too many shots and see himself out of the league. But he's currently shooting 4.5 threes a game this season for the Detroit Pistons. And given the Detroit Pistons are not good, so he can have a little bit more leeway and shoot some more shots and have more minutes. But someone who's shooting 28% from three, who has never been a good three-point shooter, should not be shooting 4.5 threes a game. And unless he adjusts his role to being a bench guy who is just there to be a good defender and a bit of a facilitator on offense and take the easy shots, I don't know how much longer he's in this league. But that's one of the biggest disappointments in this draft for me. Moving along has to be Brandon Ntilikina. He was taken 8th overall by the New York Knicks. And the pick later ended up being who they then acquired from Dallas in the Kristaps Porzingis trade, which was Dennis Smith Jr. And both of those guys have been disappointments right now. Brandon Ntilikina hasn't really been playing too much for the Knicks so far this season. He's been good defensively, as everyone knew he would be, with the extra bit of length at 6'4" and large wingspan that he has at that point guard position. But his offense, as far as scoring goals and ability to run and facilitate an offense, has been very, very poor. And he just has not lived up to anything near what you would hope from an 8th overall pick. Dennis Smith Jr., as of this morning, has been sent down to the G League. He hasn't been very good either. Which is too bad, because before his injury with Dallas, he looked very good in stints and had very good athleticism, looked like he had a decent ability to score the ball. But it just hasn't been able to translate yet. Alongside that, Malik Monk is an interesting one. He started to get a few minutes again here now this season. But up to this point, he hasn't been great. If he could start to see a few more minutes and improve his game, then that would be certainly nice to see. But we haven't really been able to see that yet, unfortunately. Other than that, I think that's most of the top picks. Anything else other than that, I wouldn't really consider a disappointment, because everyone else is outside of the lottery. And, you can't really be too surprised when draft picks outside the lottery don't exactly go your way. Justin Patton only playing 9 games in 3 seasons for the Chicago Bulls. He was Chicago Bulls draft pick at pick 16. 9 games in 3 seasons for a 16th overall draft pick's pretty rough. Outside of that, I also want to take a look at some late draft picks that have been surprisingly well. And starting off with Edmund Sumner, I don't know how many people know this name, but he's provided some valuable minutes off the bench for the Indiana Pacers this season. He was initially drafted by the Pelicans, 52nd overall, and he's proven to be a significantly important bench piece to this Pacers team. Now, he hasn't featured a ton when no one is injured, but with some of their injuries they've had this season, he has been quite valuable for this team and provided some valuable minutes at the guard position. The most impactful one late in the second round at 51st overall was Monte Morris, a very good backup point guard for the Denver Nuggets, and he's been very valuable for them. To have him at pick 51, that was a very, very good selection from them. Also in the second round, we had Sterling Brown at pick 46. We had Dylan Brooks at pick 45. We had Damian Dotson at pick 183, pick 44. Played 183 games. He's been someone who I think has been a fairly good player throughout his time in the league and who kind of goes under the radar. Thomas Bryant, the center of Washington, and who hopefully can be back healthy now next season. He's the 42nd overall pick. And Tyler Dorsey didn't really... Tyler Dorsey was one of those guys who was so good with Oregon in college. It never really translated, unfortunately, but he was fun to watch in college, man. Other notable second-round picks, Dwayne Bacon, Jordan Bell, Semi Ojeleye, who's been very good for the Celtics off the bench since he's been drafted. Wesley Iwundu, who's been a good wing piece for several teams across the league now. And then Derek White at 29 overall, Kyle Kuzma at 27, and Josh Hart at 30, all very valuable players taken late in the first rounds as well. So it was a fairly good draft for late first and second round picks, considering Iwundu's still playing, Ojeleye, Jordan Bell, Dwayne Bacon, Thomas Bryant, Dotson, Brooks, Sterling Brown, Monte Morris, Edmund Sumner. There was like 10 players in the second round that got taken that are still playing in the league 4 years later. And you don't often see that. So the fact that a third of the second round picks are still kicking around in the league and playing valuable, impactful roles is quite nice to see. With that being said, let's get into the top of this draft, and let's do a little redraft of the lottery. This was the year where Boston had the first overall pick due to the beautiful Kevin Garnett, Paul Pierce trade that absolutely massacred the Brooklyn Nets franchise for 3 or 4 years and allowed Boston to trade back to the 3 spot. Philly traded up for the number 1 overall pick out of Philly's many number 1 overall picks for many years between Joel Embiid, Ben Simmons, although Joel Embiid wasn't the first overall pick, but Ben Simmons was. Embiid was a high pick, and Noel was also a high pick. And this year's draft, they ended up taking Markelle Fultz, and we all know how that went. But if we're redrafting this, who Boston ended up getting at number 3 is definitely the best player in this draft. There's no debate in that. Jason Tatum is someone who definitely has the potential to be on many first All-NBA teams in his future. Whether he gets there, I'm not sure, but he's already a top 10, 15 player in this league. No doubt about it. He is an elite scorer. His playmaking is improving. His three-point shooting has improved throughout his career. And he's turned into more of a leader, a bit better defensively. His length so valuable on offense for shooting over players. He is no doubt in anyone's mind has to be the best player in this draft. He just is. But as far as number 2 goes, pretty nice late lottery pick in Donovan Mitchell by the Utah Jazz. You gotta love it. Man's averaged 22.7 points per game in his career, which, considering he's only 4 years into it, is absolutely nuts. The guy can just score, period. He's a scorer, and he is very, very good at it. Has to be number 2 for me. Next up, the 3-4 spots could go either way for me. One will be 3, one will be 4, but you could honestly flip them. I don't really have too much of a lean for one over the other. But it's De'Aaron Fox and Bam Adebayo. Both are essentially, in my mind, all-stars. I know De'Aaron Fox won't always get that nod in the Western Conference, but they're both at that level of play for me. De'Aaron Fox has improved as a scorer. His three-point shooting is continuing to improve. His speed and just raw athleticism is so valuable. His ability to be a good perimeter defender, along with that, with his lateral quicks, is very, very good. and he proves a very valuable piece for the Sacramento Kings. And Bam Adebayo, in the last 12 months, has shown that he is a star in this league. He went from being a backup center behind Hassan Whiteside to breaking out last season, and has shown that he is a true all-star in this league. Very good passing ability, very good scoring ability, good rebounder, good defender as a center, and also in the pick and roll and in switching onto wings. Is so versatile on that end, and he's been so valuable. And another guy got picked late as well. He was a 14th overall pick, and a very, very good late lottery pick. Moving along, it drops off now. It really does. The top four are really good all-star players, and then it really drops off. There's a big drop-off here, and some of these players might improve yet, but for me, the next guy on the list has to be John Collins, but he has not been good this season. His points per game, I believe, are down about 5 or 6 points from last season. His scoring efficiency has not been anywhere near as good. He still isn't a great natural fit at the 4 or the 5. He's a bit of a tweener between those two. And his defense, regardless, is not good at either position. And so in a contract year, he'll be an RFA at the end of the season. He has not proven to be anywhere near as good on offense as he was last season. And that's what he's going to get paid for, is his ability to score the basketball. And he hasn't done that yet. But nonetheless, he's still the next best player on this list for me, as it currently sits. Next up, honestly, the next 3 or 4 you could probably put in about any order. But I think next up for me has to be Jarrett Allen, based on how well he has played so far this season. He also was another guy in his contract year, and someone who has proved to be a very good rim protector, very good rebounding and defensively, and has been very good on offense, getting some offensive rebounds in the pick and roll. He's very valuable. And I think him, in combination with Colin Sexton and Darius Garland moving forward with Cleveland, assuming that they re-sign him this summer, it's going to be very good young pieces for them to build around. Following that up is our first very late pick, going out of the lottery. I believe that was the first non-lottery pick. John Collins was non-lottery as well. John Collins was 19, but dropping back to pick 23, OG Anunoby. Someone who slid down the draft due to him tearing his ACL in his college season before he did declare for the draft, and otherwise probably would have been a lottery pick, but was drafted with the thought process of he hadn't played lots of his last college season. I believe it was a 3-year product, and that 3rd year he tore the ACL in December or something like that. It wasn't expected, at least at that point at the draft, that he was going to be ready until December. He ended up being ready come the start of the season, however, on limited minutes and on limited athleticism. It kind of took until year 2 to fully see the full athleticism of OG Anunoby. But he's proven to be a very good pick for the Toronto Raptors. He got paid this summer. He got his big extension, 4 years, $72 million, I believe it was. And he's improved year on year, small leaps and bounds on offense, and is one of the best man-to-man wing defenders in the league. He's continued to put on a little bit more muscle, so he's even stronger now and even more elite at the offensive end. Good rebounding ability. His three-point shooting has been elite so far this season, shooting a very high clip, and he's proven to be very valuable for the Toronto Raptors. Next up, someone who hasn't quite lived up to the expectations yet is Lonzo Ball. He's taken 2nd overall, one of 2 point guards taken 1 and 2 that haven't quite lived up to what the high expectations would have quite hoped for yet. And there's no doubt his court vision is very, very good, especially in the fast break. His vision in the fast break is some of the best vision and playmaking ability you will ever see. His ability to get out and run and find the open man, create things in transition is so valuable. And that's why he's played his best basketball this season when the Pelicans have gotten out and run. That makes sense. Lonzo and Zion on a fast break is absolutely dominant. And they've had a lot of success with that this season, and so has Lonzo Ball. But his length and his ability to defend on the perimeter has been very valuable and probably his most consistent asset, which is quite good and a surprising positive, because when Lonzo came into the league, there was no expectation of him being an elite defender. Obviously, he had the length, but he had never been known as a good defender. He was just good on offense, a good shooter with a weird release who had very good vision. But he's worked on his defense, he's put in the effort, and he's turned into a very, very good perimeter defender, which is a good bonus, and something that they wouldn't have expected. But they're still hoping for some better shooting for Lonzo Ball. Lonzo Ball's shooting has decreased again this season. His spot-up shooting, his three-point shooting has not been as good as I'm sure the Pelicans or himself would have hoped. But hopefully we can continue to see more improvement from him. Next up on the list is Lauri Markkanen. Lauri Markkanen's a weird one. His year 2 was really good. His year 3 was not anywhere near as good. His offensive efficiency and production dropped drastically. And for someone whose defense isn't great, his offensive production, similar to John Collins, is going to be what gets him paid. At 7 foot, his ability to shoot threes is very versatile and very unique. But he needs to be able to be a little bit more consistent from there to be an elite player and get his big bag this summer. Next up on this list is a pair of Orlando Magic injuries, Jonathan Isaac and Markelle Fultz. Again, this is probably a scenario when you're probably in the next bracket now where you could probably put the next 4 guys kind of interchangeably. They're all fairly close in skill set. And Jonathan Isaac and Markelle Fultz are a little bit lower on this list than their ability would say, just due to the injuries and general health concerns. Markelle Fultz obviously has had injury concerns his whole career. This is not the first injury for Jonathan Isaac as well. But Jonathan Isaac was in legitimate Defensive Player of the Year discussions before his injury last season. He was that guy defensively, you know? And his offense had finally improved. He was shooting a lot better from 3, specifically in the corner. And his ability to get to the basket was improving as well. And I hope we can see him back next season, healthy again and at an elite level. Because he was a very fun and exciting player to watch and a very, very elite defender. And the same thing for Markelle Fultz. I hope we can see him back healthy next season. He was finally looking like a good, competent point guard with Orlando. Good scorer, good playmaker. Nothing elite, but solid. He was turning into a solid starter, which for all the struggles mentally and physically he dealt with early in his career, I was so happy for him to see that. We haven't quite seen that yet, but I hope he can get healthy, stay healthy, and have that continue. Next up is the valuable bench piece of the LA Lakers, the one young player who didn't get traded from the LA Lakers to get Anthony Davis is Kyle Kuzma. I'm not going to lie, I'm not the biggest fan of Kyle Kuzma. He's a bit inconsistent on offense for me. His defense is not consistent enough. He shows flashes where he puts in a lot of effort on defense, and he can be a good defender, but we don't see that very often. And so for someone who can be a little bit streaky on offense and not offer great defense, I don't love him, but he does offer enough for you offensively and have enough breakout nights that he is still a very valuable piece for this team off the bench. And then moving along, I like him more than the last 2 options, and that's Derek White and Luke Kennard. You could definitely make the option that Derek White is better than him, and Derek White's the better defender than Kyle Kuzma more consistently for sure, and he's been a good scorer in the Spurs system as well. And I believe he just got an extension this summer as well to stay with the Spurs, so it's very likely he will be third guard of the future next to DeJounte Murray and potentially Lonnie Walker in that team as well. But Derek White's proven to be a quality NBA player, nothing elite, nothing great, but a quality NBA player for sure. You could definitely argue to put him up higher on this list. I just genuinely haven't watched enough of him play. I don't watch the San Antonio Spurs play that often, unfortunately. But I could definitely listen to an argument of him being moved up a few spots on this list. Most definitely. And then lastly on this list, I honestly wasn't sure who to put in this 14th slot. This 14th spot and the last pick in the lottery on a redraft is kind of weak, to be honest. You could put Harry Giles in here, I suppose. You could put Josh Hart in here. Could put Wesley Nwundu. You could put Semi Ojeleye. You could put Dwayne Bacon. Like, there's not that many great options here. You could put Monte Morris as well. I went for Luke Kennard. I like his scoring ability. And he's been shooting quite efficiently again with the Clippers so far this season. His ability to hit threes is just very, very elite. And hopefully he can just continue to stay healthy. That's been the only downside for him so far this season. as he's had some injury problems nearly every year of his career. But yeah, that's kind of my thoughts on that 14th spot. That being said, I'm not going to go any further. I just want to cover the main players and do a redraft of the lottery. But yeah, there's no doubt Jayson Tatum is the best player in this draft, 100%. And there's 4 definite All-Stars. And after that, there's some good above-average starters and role players, but it wasn't the most elite draft, to say the least. With that being said, if you guys did enjoy the video, feel free to leave a like down below and subscribe to the channel if you are new. And if you guys do want to see more NBA redraft videos, feel free to let me know and I can definitely do some more. Thank you guys for watching, and I will see you guys in the next one.